So on the bottom part of the page, we have two new situations. And in the case of double bonds or triple bonds being in a structure, there's a tiny little twist that we have to take in order to name these, but it's really simple. So same rules apply except for one little trick. Now the key actually comes right from step number one, and that is identifying the longest carbon chain with the little note or the little point, longest carbon chain, and this is the key, with double slash triple. So this has to be in the longest chain. This, when we get over here, has to be in the longest chain. Um, so, keeping that in mind, I could number this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could number this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could number this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This picture was a good one to start with because you can't, there's no 6, there's no way to do 4. Pretty much any way you go, it's 5. Um, I'm going to go a little bit, I'm going to show it in a complicated picture just so that it makes it a little bit difficult, but understanding it will make it easier. And that is, if every way I go is 5 carbon chain, I'm going to make this 5 carbon chain look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? The double bond is in there, and I'm good. Then, of course, we go back to the second step, which is to identify where there are branches. So I box them. There's a branch here, and there's a branch here. However many boxes there are, that's how many branches there are. So there are going to be 2 branches. 1 carbon chain. I think we all are getting familiar with this. That this is a methyl branch, and this is a 1 carbon chain. So this is also a methyl branch. Before I can identify where the carbon is located, well, actually, let's do that. 1, 2, there's a branch. 1, 2, there's a branch. So which way am I supposed to number it? Well, this is the second part about the double and triple bond, is that the lowest numbering on double slash triple bonds is most important. Meaning the number is dictated by where the bond is. And forgetting about there being branches right now, we count out 1, 2, 3. There's a double bond after the third, if I count this way, or 1, 2, and there's a double bond after the second. So whichever, there are 2 ways to approach any chain, but the key is the double bond has to have the lowest numbering. So after what carbon does the double or triple bond happen at the lowest numbering? And in this picture, it happens to be at the second. So this just dictated the numbering system for the whole chain. Once you decide the way you're going to number it, that's the way it sticks. So if we're going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now we've determined, without having to think about it, what numbers belong to which branch. So it's getting a little trickier. That was the point, but my branches get named first because that's always what we do. There's a branch at the second, and there's a branch at the fourth, both being methyls. But since there are 2 branches, I add the di. 2,4-dimethyl. After that, I have to add the chain. Now, This is a 5 carbon. 5 carbon is pent. See how I put a little space there? Gonna need it. Double bond. Double bond represents alkenes. And so this is called pentene. And here's the last thing. See, like I said, it's easy, but you have to follow the steps properly. This doesn't tell me where. If this double bond was moved to here, it would have completely different properties. If this double bond was moved to here, it would have a different name. If this double bond was moved to here, it would have completely different properties. So identifying where the double bond is important for that reason. And because the double bond comes after the second carbon, we put the 2. Remember, the numbers are basically addresses. They tell us where we're looking, and then whatever comes after it tells us what we're looking at. So the same thing is true here. I have a double bond. I'm looking at a double bond, but where am I looking at it? At the second carbon. All right, so the main takeaways here is we have to find the longest chain, but it has to include the double and the triple bond. And when we name it, the numbering has to go with the double bond and the triple bonds taking precedent over the branches. So here's another long one. Now we can, this puts everything together. Everything. So I could have multiple ways of doing this. I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carbon chains starting from here and going to here. That's a pretty long chain. You would assume that it's the longest. But if I do this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I also have a 8 carbon chain straight across. If I start from here and go to here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the longest carbon chain is a straight shot. But going back to what I said over here is it has to have the double bond. So if and I'm doing this in pencil because I'm going to erase it. If I chose to go with this as the longest chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I would be incorrect. And I'm incorrect because this chain does not possess the double bond that has to be in the main chain. So that's actually an incorrect 8 carbon chain, even though it's the same as this 8 carbon chain. It's incorrect because it didn't have this. So step 1, identify the longest chain with a double or triple bond. Step 2, identify the branches. Anything that is not circled in the main chain is a branch. 3 branches. Step 4, or 3, I'm losing count here. This is going to be an ethyl branch. This is going to be a methyl. And this is going to be a methyl. Now we have to number them. We have their descriptions, but now we need their locations. And you can only number from this side to that side or that side to this side. And I think most of you are getting it. But I'm going to show you the conundrum. If I went this way, I would say, hey, I got my first branch at the second carbon. So I got to go this way because counting this way, my first branch comes at the third carbon. And I was taught the branch at the lowest number determines the way I'm going to number. Except for this rule that we just talked about, right? Wherever the double bond is at its lowest address has to be the way I'm going to number. And counting this way, it happens at 2. Counting this way, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I think we can all agree that 2 is less than 6. So our numbering system goes this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is all the necessary groundwork that you have to do before you get to this part. Whether you're going to do it in your head or you're going to do it on the paper, you have to know how to do all of this before you proceed to the next step. So we're going to write the branches first, and then we're going to move on and write the backbone. So there's a branch at the third carbon, and it's an ethyl branch. There's a branch at the sixth and the seventh, and they're both methyls. So that is what we call a dimethyl. And then we have a backbone of a 8-carbon hex with a double bond, ene, but I can't just write hex-ene without explaining where it is. I know there's a double bond, but where is it located? And since it comes after the second carbon, it's 2-hexene. So the whole name would be written as 3-ethyl 6,7-dimethyl 2-hexene. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up, or underneath this, there's some practice for you. And then the next lesson that's going to open up will have the answer key to it, as well as some short explanations. A lot of you are sending me messages, whether it's through a Remind or on the Google Classroom, to explain something, or telling me that I made a mistake in here. And I appreciate that. So don't stop doing that, because honestly, your feedback is letting me know where we are. It's the only thing I've got to determine whether you guys are learning it or not. So please keep that up and keep letting me know how this is going as you move along. So there's going to be a worksheet that I'm going to post in this lesson. Then there's going to be an answer to that with additional practice for this drawing and naming and drawing. I'll post answers to that. And then some Regents questions and a castle, and then we'll be done with naming and drawing, and we can progress through the rest of the unit. So try the next worksheet, and I'll talk to you in a bit.